All right, let me get started, everybody. Welcome. Appreciate everybody being on. Like I said, I'm going to record this meeting, and I'll share some of the collateral tomorrow via email with from Bright and where we're at with Maryland Realtors, the new form sets. Really, just wanted to take some time and make sure everybody was on the same page with over the next few months. I think we're going to have about probably 3 to 4 months where it's going to be a little bit turbulent with some of the changes and how things are coming about. So we just want to be mindful of our timeframes and some of the best practices and how things are changing. So let's go over some of those real quick just to make sure again that we're on the same page. And our time frame are, right now, August 14th is when the Fields of Co-oping Commission will be removed from the MLS. So we want to make sure that we have our value proposition in place. We want to make sure that we have our standards of practice in place. Nothing should be changing, right? With the exception of probably, and get your guys' feedback on this, how we're communicating up front with our lender partners is going to be paramount to our success moving forward. We're going to have to make sure that we're conveying to our lender partners that we should have been having these conversations all along, like upfront, without we work with our clients and our preferred lender partners, and of course the title company as well. But we're going to have to make sure that they're aware of if there's any delta between what we have on our buyer agency agreements and what is we're expecting to come in as co-oping commission, post August 14th with the listing agents and the conversations we're having. How we're going to be disseminating the information on our own listings, we're going to drill down on over the next 2 months. Each office may be different. We're going to have something on our office and corporate website that you'll be able to share with any buyers agents that are calling you, asking questions about what co-oping commissions are if you have a particular listing. And we're going to be able to communicate that again via a link, an internal link within our office website. So it's important to keep in mind. And again, these are conversations we have to have both on the list side and the buy side. The Maryland Realtor Executive Committee meets tomorrow, and they'll put their final stamp of approval on the new form sets that I'm guessing will be released by Friday. So we're going to introduce the new form sets, I would imagine, on Friday. We're going to have several trainings on those. We are going to coordinate on the JPAR Maryland Living side, and I'll share this with the other offices and brokerages as well. Bright training in July to speak to the new policies and procedures and practices within Bright. They have a new seller concession field, how that field is set up and how you can enter information within that field is going to be new. Of course, we have to have these informed conversations with our sellers on these listings on if they are offering seller concession. Is a portion of this seller concession, are they going to be allowing that to go towards a co-oping commission? And we are going to have a form within the new form sets. We have one at JPAR Maryland Living now that we've been using, but we'll probably codify that based on the new Maryland Realtor form sets that'll be released on Friday. So we'll have some updated forms for that. And again, what's important really for us is to hone in on what our value proposition is, working with buyers, and also understanding our conversations, our scripting and dialogues with sellers on, why we have the information that the reason that we're offering co-oping commissions to buyer agents. It lessens the liability. There's a lot of work, obviously, that you guys know that goes into being a buyer's agent and the value that you bring to the transactions. So all of that information is going to be very relevant and pertinent. Yes, Miss Graham, what you got?
I am so over this lawsuit right now, but my biggest question is, can we all collectively get on the page that The lawsuit is not changing how commissions are paid. It's just changing how it's advertised. Like literally that's it. It's just removing a field. Listing brokers can, and it's not the sellers paying the buyer's agent. It's the listing brokers agreeing to pay the buyer brokers. And they can still do that 100%. That is not changing.
Yeah. We are now saying that, I mean, there are basically three ways you're going to be able to get paid is either like it's always been done, right? From listing broker to buyer's broker. And then those commissions will be disseminated. The seller can pay a portion of the buyer agency fee directly through a seller concession, as long as both parties agree upon that. And again, we talked about that. We've got the form sets really in place for that now. And of course, if there's any delta, I mean, this can actually be, if you think about it, a benefit to buyers agents, because if there was a delta in the past, a lot of times what you were expecting to get and what was actually co-opt on the commission side, without talking any specifics on commissions for antitrust reasons. But this allows you now to collect, what may have been a delta on what your expectation was and what was being offered on the list side. So this could actually, as long as you get the process and procedure down, be a benefit. And we've seen that already. I know within our brokerage, we've seen that within 4 transactions the last month, we actually probably collected more money on a buy side transaction than we would have otherwise. So again, I think it's can be one of those things that we look as moving forward, that this could actually work out to our advantage, especially like if you are having those professional conversations up front. So it's something that we can definitely, lean into.
If anyone wants to
Uh,
practice with me on those, because I've been having because my buyers are generally veterans, so I have to have that conversation, and I
yeah,
have been using. I'm one. I know that I'm one of the ones that has been bridging that gap, bridging that delta, and it's a painful conversation to have with the listing agents who don't have an awesome brokerage that
yeah.
introduces forms like that. But I'm happy to sit and help anyone practice that conversation because I've had it about 16 different ways in the last 3 weeks.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely loop you in and make you part of the, like I said, we want to have, in July, I want to make sure that we're having the uh, standard of practice and training. So not only are we going to make sure that we have Bright come in and do the office trainings for us on how the new fields look, what Bright's expectations are. We're going to have the actual form sets from Maryland Realtors, but what's more important is, what conversations are we having around those new forms, the new standards of practice, and how we're relating that information to not only our buyer clients, maybe the sellers, agents, and the lenders, but we want to make sure that we're being able to implement that within our day-to-day business practice as well, right? So that'll be a big training in July, is that the new standard operating procedure, how we're practicing that and how we're putting it into place as far as training goes. So definitely lean on you for that in July, Sonia. Um, so let's skip ahead a little bit to the VA, right? We did have an effective update from VA. They released their information a couple days ago. Pull that information up. Oops. And that was the circular 26-2414 that they released June 11th, basically setting forth the information for the temporary local variance for buyer broker charges, basically saying that these seller concessions will not count towards the interested party contributions, like has been the case all along for FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. His practice does go into effect August 10th. So effective date, this circular is effective August 10th, 2024. So effectively, you'll be able to start collecting commission from your VA buyers as long as your buyer agency agreement is reflective of that, with VA buyers starting August 10th. So important information that was released from VA. Again, I'll share this with the collateral that I send out as well. But those are important updates that we need to make sure that we are understanding. And again, just like we talk about that, not all realtors or agents are up to speed. We got to make sure that our lender partners are up to speed and how they're handling that. And I guess maybe more importantly, they've got to be having good conversations with our clients too, right? How they interact with our clients is going to be reflective of us. And we want to make sure, I would say prior to that, any lender you're working with, carve out some time ahead of time. If you're working with VA buyers or any buyers now moving forward, right? Have a conversation on, hey, let's get on the same page. This is how we're going to work moving forward with our buyers. I'm going to have a buyer agency agreement in place. Clearly, I'm going to have to share with you what my fee is when I get hired as a buyer agent and an advocate for our buyers. I want to make sure that you are incorporating that into your CD, your closing disclosure. I want to make sure that you, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, are having those conversations with our buyer up front so they understand what they may be coming to the table with, just in case. And obviously nothing changes. We try to get our co-oping commission just like before from the listing side, the listing brokerage and or seller, in the form of a seller concession. So it's just a matter of, there might be a little bit more work on our part as far as dotting our I's and crossing our T's on how we're getting paid when we get hired. But in the end, I think, again, this could be a good thing. So bouncing back over to that, not only do we have those changes that are coming for the offers of compensation to be removed August 14th, coming soon is that's all changed now. There will be no time frames on coming soon properties. This was a bit of an issue with handling some coming soons. Let's say if you were doing probate or if you got a listing agreement signed, Bright was saying that you had to provide the listing agreement within 2 business days, and we had a 21-day time frame on coming soons. This will allow a little bit more bandwidth or leadway when it comes to our coming soon listings. So hopefully it just doesn't get taken advantage of. This was the case with some of the rehab properties anyway before, just now going to give us a little bit more leadway with some properties that we're using, dealing with that might need some more time coming to the market. Office exclusives too, if for whatever reason can't really think of one why there would be an office exclusive listing. Seems anti competitive, not in the seller's best interest per se, but there may be a reasoning behind that. But there's new standards of practices through Bright, which you have to make sure that those office exclusives are entered properly. So keep that in mind moving forward as well. Yeah, we'll talk about the seller concession fields. Those are going to be new to you. You can put what the seller concessions is in there, and there's going to be some fields for what the seller is willing to, if they want to say in advance how the breakdown of their seller concessions are. Just obviously no mention of buyers agents co-opting is not an informed seller concession within the MLS. So. Like I said, the form sets will be released on Friday. We'll have 2, at least within our office, 2 separate trainings for the new form sets moving forward prior to August. And the VA takes effect August 10th. So just want to make sure that we're on the same page with all those upcoming timeframes. We got about 2 months of where things are going to be a little bit turbulent, but we're going to get through it. So any other questions about moving forward, how you're handling things? Like to Sonia's point, really nothing's changed for us. It's just a matter of kind of how we're working, like the back office, and how we're making sure that we're going to get paid when we get hired. And those are some of the key things. We should have always been saying that, when you hire us, you get this. Here's our big bulk, our value proposition. This is what you get when you hire me as your agent. And these are my fees that I charge. Part of what I'm going to do is try to get those fees paid either through a seller concession or a co-oping commission from the listing brokerage, but nothing's changed. But it's just how it's been always done in the commercial world, and it's how we're going to be moving forward with our business now. So there's an acknowledgement of commission within the commercial world. Here, we're just getting some information from the listing brokerage on what they're co-oping and what the commission is. We'll get something in writing from the listing brokerage on what their co-oping commission would be for us. And then that we plug that into what our buyer agency says. And if there's any delta there, then we can ask for a seller concession to make that up. And if the seller is willing to do a seller concession to make that up, we're golden. If they're willing to do some, but not all of it. Now we have some co-oping commission from the listing brokerage. We have some seller concession that's going to make it up. Both parties agree to that on a separate addendum. And let's say whatever, there's a little bit left over, there's a delta, then our buyer will be a line item on the ALTA for our buyer for their closing costs to pay for us. And that line item of closing costs does not get counted towards, the seller concession does not get counted towards the interested party contribution. So it's not going to affect that at all. All of our major loans, I have not heard on USDA yet. I don't think any of us are doing a lot of USDA loans. Maybe Southern Maryland is doing some. I haven't heard of any changes in what their requirements are, but I'll get that prior to our next training or meeting. But as of now, nothing's changed with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and now VA has also chimed in saying that that will be their standard as well. So all good news on that front. Any questions? Is anybody completely anything to add to that? Greg, do you have anything that you're seeing in your markets?
I'd add, as you said, my fee. I think you have to be careful. You always want to present it as the broker's fee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Minor
When you hire me, our broker. When you hire me, you're hiring our brokerage. I'm a representative of that brokerage, but yeah, our broker's fee is X. So yeah, I mean, it's really just going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit more work up front, which I am not mad about at all. I think the more conversations we have when it comes to compensation on advocacy is probably long-term a good thing. So for that, I'm thankful. We just need the thing that's going to be a little bit painful. And I promise you, no matter what we do, it's going to be a little bit painful, is getting the lenders and the title companies and everybody on the same page on how all this plays out as smoothly as possible. We've never had to share our buyer agency agreements with anyone before. I'm not sure if title companies are going to require us to share our buyer agency agreements with them moving forward, just so that they have some sort of proof of what our fee is going to be, or if it'll just be handled the same way it's always been handled with listings. They just we fill in a line item and we say, this is what our charge or fee was to our clients. And then it becomes a pass through on the ALTA, and the title company just moves money around. So that'll just be sort of how things are handled. And that's all we have to figure out. But we've done it a few times.
What I've noticed with Legacy is they just want that that form that we have that covers the delta, that says they just want proof of that. And then when you go, like when they start it and it says, how much, who's paying what commission, instead of hitting seller, you have to hit split. And then as long as you have that extra addendum, then they're usually fine with it. That's my experience with Legacy. I don't work with any other title company, so I can't speak to them, but Legacy has been really cool.
Cool. I'll get to you in 1 second, Marie. I just want to add one thing to that off of Sonia's comment. Qualia needs to get up to speed, because Qualia in their when they ask the questions, if you guys are familiar with Qualia, which seems to be the dominant security portal for some of the title companies now, they need to adjust some of the line items, the fields within their algorithm on their templates, because it's not set up for this currently. And then the only other thing, I guess, maybe to Sonny's point, this might get a little bit messy when, we have X commission is being offered by the listing brokerage. We have a seller concession of X amount. Yes, here, title company. We have the listing brokerage co-oping commission to us as the buyer's brokerage. The seller and buyer have agreed on a seller concession to my buyer agent's compensation of this amount. And there's a small delta that needs to be made up for my buyer's agency agreement. So it's just a little bit of extra work that the title companies are going to have to parse through and make sure the accounting is right on. We did have one transaction where the title company was a little off on that, and it really was the lender who didn't get the information conveyed to them in the CD in a timely manner. So that's things that you guys, I always say the most important thing prior to settlement is reviewing the ALTA. Now it's even more important to take a look at that CD from the lender to make sure that all the math is right, the accounting's right, that the funds are being line item the right way you're getting paid. And then that CD, everything pings off that CD for the Alta. So make sure you're putting the time in. If you're using a transaction coordinator, make sure that transaction coordinator is requesting a CD from the lender in a timely manner, and or the preliminary Alta, to make sure all accounting is in the right columns or lines. So yeah, Marie, go ahead. Do you have a question? I think you're on mute. Let me see where you're at on my form here.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Now I'm getting an echo. Anyway, this may seem like a small thing, but I sometimes think when we speak about commission, the word has a negative connotation. And I had a national coach suggest that we do professional fee. You know, the lawyers who litigated, they were collecting a professional fee. I just think that if we started terming what we do as professional services, I think that has a better connotation. And, you know, that's just something small, but I thought I would throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, words have weight and words matter. I can't disagree with you on that. I think how, you know, that dialogue and script around how all the agents are going to express their value, fee for service or brokerage fee. Yep. Greg Ford just put in the chat. Absolutely. I think that's going to matter. Those little things are going to matter because we haven't really had to be buttoned up on how we have those conversations
Exactly.
up until now. So
Right.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, would totally agree with that. We're going to be launching, I know from Anne Arundel County Association of Realtors, we have an idea day in the planning, which is our inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, rebranding our DEI committee. But we're bringing a lender in from Florida who has a whole new way of talking about some fair housing issues, and she's reframed all like everything about like pre-qualification or pre-approval. She has different language for how she talks to all of her clients. And hearing her at a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona recently was very impactful. And the way she's communicating some of those things, and we get stuck in an industry, we get stuck in some of these grooves on how we word things, the language that we use. But to your point, yeah, I think we need to maybe reevaluate how all the words that we're using in the conversations we're having so that it can be as impactful or meaningful as possible. But I think, yeah, our brokerage fee or service fee, that kind of thing is a good point. Thank you. Real quick, I just want to maybe bounce out and take a look at some of the stats that are going on right now. I'm just looking real quick at Maryland suburbs, since we're talking about over 5 different brokerages. We have Gaithersburg, Bethesda, Southern Maryland, and Hughesville, Arnold, Annapolis, and Columbia. I'm going to just pull up some of the Maryland suburbs to give us an idea. We do have a little bump in inventory in May for May 2023. We're actually up 50% year over year. So months of supply, we're still only at about 1.5 months. So a very depleted housing market as far as inventory goes. I mean, if you pop on like a 10-year overlay to what that looks like, you can see how we've consistently lost inventory. But if it's of any concession coming out of COVID, hopefully this is a trend line in the right direction, because we are trending a little bit better than we have been in the past 2 years. So all good to know. Of course, with that depreciation in inventory, the median sold sales price continues to elevate. So across the Maryland suburbs, the median sold sales price is $522,000 right now. That's still up 6% year over year. And again, if we look at a trend line, let's say over 10 years, this has been, a steady increase. We haven't had a traditional balanced market. Back in 2014 was the last time we saw market inventory over 5 months. So going back 10 years, we've been in a seller's market, a strong seller's market. And that always leads to increased sales price. So just different things to keep in mind. Again, median days on market, despite a little uptick in inventory, we're still looking at an average of 7 days on market. So just know that you have to be really buttoned up with your potential buyers. You want to make sure that you're really developing those relationships with lenders and everybody's super solid. Having those expectation conversations with buyers up front is, again, just as important as it's ever been, coming out of COVID. So we have to be very, very proactive. We've got to make sure that our buyers are really ready, willing, and able to pull the trigger on a potential property if they're out there shopping. And we have to be honest with them. If the property checks off a bunch of boxes, there's a chance that maybe we're still seeing over list price offers in this market. We probably will be trending in that direction for a little bit, despite the higher mortgage fees relative to what they've been for the past few years. That has not affected sales price at all because of the low inventory levels. So market forces are factors just for us to kind of keep in mind. In the news, just wanted to share with you upcoming JPAR events. We have workshops coming up. Using video to build your business. June 24th is one that is coming up. Financial wellness, June 25th. Introduction to commercial real estate, if that's something that you're looking to look into, is June 25th as well. National trends update. This one would be a pretty good one. On June 18th, you can piggyback on national trends. Remember, all real estate is relative and hyperlocal. So utilize either like RPR report, smart charts, Altus within our JPAR hub. But leverage some of those statistics to tell a story for your potential buyer clients. And if you're out there providing market updates, right now would be probably a really good time to do some sort of buyer workshop or webinar, anything with the changes that are coming, just so that we can really hone, sharpen our swords and drill down on what our value proposition is working with buyer clients. So make sure that they know that you're the local economist of choice, the local realtor. You have sort of unparalleled local market knowledge, and anything that you can do or say or show to express that value proposition is going to be helpful moving forward. So again, keep in mind those new timeframes. We have seller concessions added to the MLS through Bright. Offers of cooperating compensation leave the MLS on August 14th. VA buyers will now be able to pay for, doesn't mean that they can pay for, be able to pay their buyer agents compensation starting August 10th. So, yes, sir. What do you got, Greg?
So I've had a couple lenders reach out to me saying they have 100% loan programs now for buyers. So that might be an opportunity to reach out to people, educate them on those. You don't have a lender doing those yet.
Yeah. Are those sort of portfolio products, or like, I know Navy Federal has one of those?
I've had two different lenders reach out to me recently and saying, it's new for them. And I think they're doing it to stimulate some business, to get some mortgages going. So, if you've been working with a buyer that's trying to save up a down payment, it may be a great opportunity.
Yeah. I plan on, for JPAR Maryland Living next in July, where we'll have an updated sales meeting. It might be a hybrid event where we tie in some of these new form set trainings. But was speaking to a lender from First Savings lender today. They have an interesting bridge loan program that it's all portfolioed. It's a 4 to 8 month bridge loan product that is all self-funded. Their CEO emeritus has put in a big pool of money for these bridge loans. They're bigger in the DMV region than they are per se in Maryland proper here. But Greg, you're probably familiar with First Savings more so than I am. But little niche products like that is something that I'm going to try and bring to the agents so that we can in turn bring it to our client population if we can. So keep on the lookout for that. If you guys have anything, shared on our JPAR DMV Facebook page, or send it to me, and I'll make sure it gets out in distribution. VA buyers are able to pay for the agent, but cannot include it in the loan. That's correct, Santiago. Just yeah, like most loans, um, agent commission is not, you're not able to include that in the loan product, even with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or any of those. For a term or a period, you were actually able to finance agent commissions in the loans, but that went away after the recession, and the Dodd-Frank Act forbid that through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac as well. VA reiterated that right now the temporary agreement for VA buyers to pay it certainly doesn't include them to be able to roll that into their loan. Yep. So you're absolutely right about that.
But
Thank
they
you,
can
Santiago.
still roll in that funding fee, boy.
Sure can. Yeah, they can roll that funding fee in there. So, I mean, the rest of the loan's still 100%, and a lot of things can be paid off within a VA loan. So that VA concession cap's not exactly what you think it is. So make sure that you're working with a informed lender on what that looks like. And these the buyer agent commission will not be a part of that cap as well. So that's good news. I mean, you just got to find a VA buyer that's willing to pay for that representation. And for you as a buyer's agent, if you bring the value as an advocate for them, it'll be well worth it. And then on the list side, if you're talking to sellers, make sure that they understand, the reason that we're offering this co-opting compensation is because unrepresented buyers are good for no one. I'm putting out multiple fires today for a transaction where we were working with a buyer's agent that just went AWOL on a transaction. And for us having to pick up those pieces and carry this transaction across the finish line opens us up to a lot more liability, but it's what we had to do from a ministerial acts standpoint for our client. But unrepresented buyers are good for no one. Buyers agents bring a lot of value to the transaction. It spreads out the liability when it comes to those kinds of things. And you're casting a bigger net, right? If a VA buyer is unable to come out of pocket and pay a buyer's agent commission, if you're not co-opting compensation to them, there's a good chance that VA buyer is talking to their agent saying, I don't want to see any properties where I might have to, come out of pocket. And that's going to lessen the buyer pool for you as a seller. So make sure you're having those informed consent conversations with your sellers. It's going to make everything easier on everyone. They haven't had an open cooperating compensation in the commercial field forever. Like that doesn't exist on CoStar or LoopNet. But guess what? Most commercial listing brokerages offer co-opting compensation to buyer's agents out there that makes up the delta, because they understand that it's important to offer that, dangle that carrot out there, and make sure that they understand the value of a buyer's agent within that market, bringing a buyer to the transaction. So again, it's just a matter of we're going to have to get everybody on the same page and flesh out some of these procedures internally and externally as we work through this with our lender and title partners. So that was it. Really wanted to make sure that we were all on board for these changes tonight. Stay tuned from information from your brokers or office managers. We'll be sharing the Bright update, which has a ton of information. The last Bright office broker and office manager meeting was chock full of all kinds of information. They've offered to come and do in JPAR training for us in July. So stay tuned for details on when that's going to happen. Coming soon, gets a facelift. Those timeframes are no longer going to be the 21-day periods, no longer going to be in place. We have a new field within the MLS, seller concession field. We've got a couple of months that we get to get used to that. Before that will be solo dolo out there, and the offer of cooperating compensation goes bye-bye the way of the dodo bird on August 14th. Maryland Realtor Executive Committee meets tomorrow. They should release the new form sets that they blessed and stamped on Friday. So we'll have all those available, and we'll be sharing all of those with you. Like I said, we've been using one internally here at JPAR. Maryland Living, to be determined if that gets tweaked a little bit based on the new form sets that come out, or we'll continue to use that one. But either way, we will have a form that both buyer and seller can agree to, seller offering some seller concession that'll go towards the buyer agent compensation. So any questions? I know it was pretty streamlined today, no guest speakers, not a lot of fluff. Just understand we've been tracking the same way. Inventory's still down, but we do see things moving in the right direction for that. And then a big change is coming for the VA compensation starting August 10th. Yes, Miss Sonia.
I just wanted to say that it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's all great changes. I think it's opening the doors to have better conversations and to make us all be the actual professionals we like to hashtag say we are on the social media. And I think that, you know, we say we teach people how to treat us. I think that the way that we frame it to the public and to each other, if we're framing it in a way that it's positive, it's going to help our business, it's going to help our clients, because it really is. I think that that's going to help us stand aside from all the doom and gloomers out there that hate change. Change sucks. Well, change, the only thing certain in life is that change is going to happen, and this change it's awesome. I think it's an awesome change. And yeah, I'm just really excited that we get to choose to be the voice of reason and logic, and hey, this is just how real estate should have been.
Yeah,
I
probably,
agree.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that,
Yeah.
I think it's an exciting change. It makes things much more transparent than they were. And, you know, some people are going to be unhappy, but that's life. I think it's a good
Yeah.
change for all of us.
I think when they introduced buyer agency back in the day, they probably should have thought that through a little bit more and probably had it more like what we're going to experience moving forward. But yeah, to your point. And so, you know, I'll end with this too. Know that like maybe all that information is not being disseminated equally across the board throughout all the various brokerages. I want to make sure that I'm there for, I know all the other brokers and office managers on the call are going to be there for their agents, but give a little grace to any agent that you might be working with in a transaction. If they're not fully up to speed or aware of the changes, if I can, you know, intervene and interject on your behalf in a transaction that may be kind of being contentious or going sideways, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help with that. But yes, sir, Mr. Ford.
So, you know, one of the things, you know, since we only really know real estate in our backyard, so to speak, you know, being one of the 17 states that's been using buyer agencies for a while, we're used to getting buyers to sign agreements. There are a lot of other states where they don't have any documents, and now they're going to have to present these documents. So we got it easy compared to some other parts of the country.
Yeah,
Because
you're
we're
absolutely right.
used to having buyers sign buyer agency agreements. And if they read them, they ask you, well, does this mean I have to pay you? You know, we get this a lot. So I think we're way ahead of the curve. You know, we've trained our buyers that you need a signed agreement with us to be out looking at property. So now we just have to explain, you know, how the compensation works. So
Exactly. Yep.
The unfortunate thing was, though, with the way things were done previously, we never filled in the box where it said, you know, what the percentage of reimbursement or professional fee would be. We, you know, we just always defaulted to what the MLS said. And, you know, I'm happy that we've had it. The other good thing that I'm happy about is, even though it's 3 or 4 pages for the buyer agreement, a buyer can't go anywhere else because all the agents in Maryland are going to have to be held to the same, you know, agreement, the buyer agreement, none of this Zillow 1-page touring agreement, which some states have. So, you know, we're really much better off than many other states.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Maryland Realtors legal team's been very clear about it. And Maryland, it requires, if you're going to represent a buyer, which means if you're going to open up show homes or tour homes, you have to have a buyer agency agreement in place. Sort of no more drive-by, no more drive-by real estating.
Greg, maybe you talked about this, and I apologize if I missed it, but did you talk about the Maryland that they want some of these showing, quote unquote, showing agreements for some of these technology and online companies, that's not going to fly?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about right now is, yeah, no touring agreements, no showing agreements. You have to have a buyer agency agreement, which informs the client about the fiduciary responsibilities of the agent. They are a fiduciary. You have to have that in place. Even if you're going to like preview a home for a buyer, you have to have a buyer agency agreement in place. So if you're taking a
Is there
video
any
of a home,
talk about like Virginia going to a limited service agreement now that this whole scenario is changing?
well, I'm not sure to be honest, because I'm not. I need that would be a question maybe for GCAR or Nova or the Northern Association for Realtors. I'll see if I can find out for you, Greg. But
I was
yeah,
thinking the Maryland realtors, Virginia went that way years back, so.
yeah, for the, I mean, there's transactional agents in Florida, which it's something that Maryland Realtors have been pretty adamant about. We don't want to move into a transactional agency agreement. There's discount brokers out there. There's no real such thing as a discount broker. Even though they market themselves as a discount broker, you still are beholden to the same fiduciary requirements. Even if you're a discount broker, you don't magically allow your fiduciary responsibilities to go away, even though they'll tell you, call the seller directly or this. Hopefully, once the transitional new commissioner for the Maryland Real Estate Commissioner is decided upon, right now it's Raquel as the interim commissioner for the Maryland Real Estate Commissioner. Once they land on a more permanent person within that role, I have a feeling they're going to start enforcing some of the rules and requirements a little bit more. But yeah, for us, to Marie's point, it does make it easy. You have to have a buyer agency agreement in place if you're going to work with a buyer on, at any capacity. Another thing to keep in mind, make sure that buyer agency agreement has X commission. We're talking to a couple different brokerages here, so we can't use exact numbers, but make sure it's whatever you want to get paid has to be on that buyer agency agreement. Because if the co-oping commission is greater than what you have on that buyer agency agreement, technically you're not allowed to collect the delta on the overage. You'd actually have to sign a new buyer agency agreement to protect what you want to or what you think you're going to be collecting. So make sure that whatever is on that buyer agent, whatever you want to be paid, is what's on your buyer's agency agreement. Doesn't mean you have to collect that, but at least you give yourself the ability to collect that. You can sign something, obviously, that you're not going to, if the commission and seller concession is pretty close to where you're at and the buyer just doesn't have the delta to come to it with, and that's something that you negotiate with your buyer, that's totally up to you. All right. Like I said, it was going to be pretty direct and short and sweet, making sure we're all aware and on the same page with where we are with these form sets coming out this week, at the end of this week, the new changes, the dates, the timeframes. So just buckle up, make sure that your value proposition's in place, make sure you're having those informed consent conversations with your sellers, offer the co-oping commission. It's going to make life easier on yourself. If you don't, or if you're not, you might want to make sure that you're understanding what a variable rate commission is. Talk to your broker or office manager on that. If you're going to have in place a variable rate commission, if there's a buyer that is unrepresented and you're going to be doing, a little bit more of the work, and you expect to collect a disproportionate portion of what the seller is offering a compensation, make sure that that's all in writing. One thing we haven't talked about that I'm working on a solution for our office is rentals and rental agreements. If you are an agent that works rentals, they're also not going to be allowed to have an offer of co-oping compensation on rentals. I feel like there's an opportunity here for some listing agents on rentals to squeeze margins on co-oping compensations as well. We may have a form that we charge directly. Again, we will certainly in the tenant agency agreement have the ability to charge our tenant clients. However, collecting money on a rental is different than collecting money at a settlement, right, for a resale. So there's some nuance that we have to work through there. And I'm working on something through Square that we may be able to charge our tenant clients a little bit. Yeah, you're still able to advertise a rental property, just not a co-oping commission through the MLS on a rental property, Santi. Same requirements based on the settlement apply to the rentals as they do for listings. So you won't be able to offer co-oping compensation within the MLS or anything that directly feeds from an IDX feed from the MLS. So just something to keep in mind. That might be a little bit more problematic than maybe a resale with the working with tenants. So again, just know that we have a training. We'll have 2 trainings in July, or at least one in July and one at the beginning of August, when it comes to having these dialogues, the conversations around the new form sets and all the Bright updates. We have one directly from Bright and one office training around the form sets as well, along with a lot of other information we're going to be sharing. Maryland Realtors is going to be doing a training as well. So stay tuned for all of that. They probably haven't announced that until they announce the form set release on Friday, but all of that to be determined quite soon here. Any other questions? All right, I will share all those Bright updates and releases in the email tomorrow with our office and the other office brokers and office managers, along with the information from the VA announcement. Again, remember that takes effect August 10th. VA buyers will be allowed temporarily until they have a permanent fix to pay a buyer's agent compensation directly. So, all right. Well, I do appreciate it. If you guys don't have anything else, let me know. Yep. Sonia, what you got?
Sorry. Just want to remind everyone that we are getting into the summer months, but that doesn't mean that real estate has to slow down. There are tons of opportunities to do little pop buys, follow up with your sphere, make your social media marketing fun. If you need an idea, give me a call. I'm doing this for people in my neighborhood. I got this at the dollar store. I got everything in here at the dollar store. It was like, I don't know, a total of like $150. I have a little flyer that's going to go with it. I'm going to drop it off. Super fun, super simple, super cheap. But it's never, it's never not the time to show up and brighten people's day. And if you are like me and don't necessarily like talking to people, you can just leave these on their doorstep. So
Yeah.
lead generate, lead generate, lead generate. And if you need ideas, get with me, talk to me. I'm happy to share some stuff.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, there's business to be had out of there, right? I just did an agent spotlight of the month with one of our agents, La Ben. La's dual career educator, is now educating educators, but did 5 transactions last month, did 2 transactions already this month. But he invested in himself. He did Live Baltimore, a couple other things that he's invested in to bring more value to his client base. So that's it. Like, if you commit to yourself, commit to learning and growth, and commit to bringing value to the consumers out there, the results will show up, right? Fall in love with the process, the results will show up. And I think it's a great time. Listen, if you haven't had a conversation if you got a preferred lender that you're working with and a title company, carve out some time and talk to them about, hey, this is what it's going to look like moving forward. Are you down? Are we on the same page? Let's be on the same page. Make sure that they're having the same conversations with your clients that you're having with your clients. And we're all in this together. So
that's a great point. I was actually talking to a lender friend of mine that lives in California, and she's always like, what are your partners doing for you? What are your partners doing for you? And guys, I don't want to sound like uppity or bougie or whatever, but we bring a ton of businesses business. We make it possible for people to feed their families, to go on expensive vacations, to pop bottles on Wednesday. Like, we are the ones out there in these streets, and they're kind of waiting for us to bring the bacon. So get with your partners, lean into them. Your relationship you should bring value to each other. And if you're the only one bringing value, it's time to reconsider who you're working with. And it is okay. I'd never ask any of my partners for money. I don't need their money. I need them to show up. I need them to share my stuff on real estate, and I need them to support me when I'm doing things. So I think that value can come from more than just throwing money at you. Your lenders should be able to give you listing leads. They may not be able to get you a buyer lead. I don't know why. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard a lender say to me, but they're having conversations, and they can connect you to people who are selling their homes. So just make sure that you know your value to them, and then have them show up for you. It's okay to say, hey, this relationship is not dual-sided. I need you to step up a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great time. Like, if you're going to do a home buying workshop right now, but call it something different, call it something fun. Get your lender to be a part of it, whether it's via Zoom, on some social media platform, or old school at the library or whatever, or some chamber of commerce event or whatever. But a lot of consumers out there are getting some misinformation about everything that's going down. Inform them, be the voice of reason, let them know what's happening, what's going down. Have your lender on those calls and let your lender express to them, hey, nothing's really changed. The buyer, listen, the buyers were paying for everything before. It was just how the money was moved around on an Alta sheet. Nothing's really changing with that. So it may take a little time for those numbers to flesh out, sellers to be a little bit more. Sellers might have to have a come to Jesus moment and realize, well, we're not going to get the same inflated prices that we always have, or the things that we always need, unless they're not willing to offer some seller concessions or some other things. So that's just going to take a little bit of time to play out, but we'll get there. We'll get to the other side of this, and everything's going to be better for it. Yes.
I promise I'll shut up after this. But I also want to tell people, along with all the great training that Greg has lined up and Bright has lined up, I am launching my 3-day course. So if you want to sharpen your skills, or maybe somebody who is looking to get into real estate, or maybe somebody who's lost in the sauce and we want to bring them over to JPAR, my 3-day course is literally Real Estate 101, from setting up your business, getting in contact with a CPA, knowing how to save money for taxes out of your commission check, to writing a contract and getting listings and meeting a bunch of people, a bunch of partners that I work with. It's not going to be 3 days in a row, but it will be 3 days long, and I'll have dates out soon. So if anyone who needs a little refresher, who needs help getting started, let's go. I got them.
Awesome. Well, yeah, once we have the details on that, I'll make sure that I share that with everybody. So it's good stuff. And yeah, it's really nuts and bolts, right? It's not like any fluff. It's good hardcore training. The thing that I think most agents, like, in order to be a better salesperson, it comes through confidence and knowledge, and you get knowledge through experience, or just really being learning based. And this helps you accelerate that learning curve a little bit more, be a little bit more confident in talking about the contracts, the process. And if you understand the process, you can go out there and talk to anybody about it. And it's just a matter of telling them.
It's not coaching. I don't want to meet with you weekly for a fee. I don't want that. I want to spend 3 days with you, get you or whoever, the collective you, in the know. Basically everything Greg poured into my brain for like 3 years, I condensed into 3.5 days. So that's kind of what I'm trying to give back. But I promise you, it's not coaching. I'm not going to motivate you. I'm not going to have you buy into any contract motivational. It's literally just, this is how you do the job of a realtor. Everything they didn't teach you in real estate school.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, if anybody needs any help building out some lead generation models, if you want to talk about your niche or anything, feel free to hit me up. And don't worry, like Sonia said at the beginning, the sky's not falling. We'll get through this, and let's lean into each other. If you got anything to share on the social media platforms, JPAR DMV or JPAR Maryland Living for our office. But thank you guys. Appreciate it. And look forward to the recap email tomorrow. Guys, enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
All
Go
right,
team.
take care. Thanks, Greg.
Go team.